Hello, Steve Mills here, back with my podcast. It's great to be back on the Results podcast and sharing really some great ways in which to grow your business. But today's podcast is a little bit different. I've got somebody, a very good friend of mine, whose name's Judy Walker, and she's here to interview me about a project that I'm currently working on. I've been working on it. I really started this project about 18 months ago, and I'm working towards it now. We're in the home straight, and the real objective of the project is for me to become the world over 60s table tennis champion. Some of you may know that years ago, back in my 20s, I was a full-time professional table tennis player and played at international level. I then retired, got involved in marketing, been doing that pretty much ever since, and I'm now coming back into the world of table tennis. So just to say hello, Judy, thanks for...
Hi, Steve.
Thank you. So you got some questions for me, I believe.
Yeah, I am really interested in the fact that at 60, you feel that you can go into the World Championships and win and be competitive. So tell me, what happened for you to decide that this is something that you wanted to do?
Well, like a lot of these things, originally I got roped in by a friend who I knew through tennis. I played tennis at sort of local league level, and he said to me, come on, join my table tennis team in Basingstoke. You ought to come and play with us. So I said, well, I'll come down and have a game. Then I haven't played for literally 30 years, and I got the bug again. I got the bug and started playing in Basingstoke, and then, as you know, recently moved, got married again and moved to Portsmouth, and now I'm playing in the Southampton League, the National League. I've been entering a few over 50s tournaments because I'm a spring chicken, I'm only just 60 by a few weeks, but I've been entering the over 50s. I've got myself ranked number 20 in England in the over 50s, but remember I'm playing against some guys who are like 10 years younger than me, so I'm doing okay in that. But now I think in a couple of weeks I got my first over 60s tournament, and then in June I'm going to play in the World Table Tennis Championships, and my objective is to be the world champion. So
I find that incredible. We were talking earlier before the podcast started about how you felt when you left table tennis, that you always had a longing, a gap in the fact that you hadn't actually achieved everything that you wanted to achieve back then.
Yeah.
What is it that you know now that you think can inform your practicing, your technique, or even just your determination to succeed?
Yeah, I did. You're right. My goal was always to be world champion, and I didn't get anywhere near that in truth. But I really do believe that I set my goal, which is something that is really relevant for business owners. I set my goal massively high, i.e. to be world champion. And I believe if my goal would have been to have, been in the top 10 players in England, then I might have got to the top 50 players in England. So in other words, because I set my goal so high, I worked incredibly hard and got to a really good level, but nowhere near the level I did then. So I think that's one thing to sort of for business owners to take. Set your goals really high. Don't be content with like a 5% improvement. How could you double your business in the next 12 months is maybe a question to ask. Just going back to your question and how am I doing things different? I think, in life generally, as we get older, we all look back and think, I wish I'd known back then what I know now. And that is so true in the world of table tennis, because really, the truth is, I think in all sports, back then we knew nothing. The technology and the training and the nutrition and the everything in tennis and football and table tennis and all sports, it's just come on leaps and bounds. I can remember some of the training that we used to do. that if we were doing this now, it would be just totally and utterly different. So, just like the world of IT and technology and marketing has improved, so the knowledge that we need to basically compete at sport at a high level, that's improved as well. And I just wished I'd known back then what I know now, and I'm using what I know now in order to try to improve.
And that's just in your own business and also competing at sport. So there's a learning curve to be had that you apply to your sport environment, to your business environment. So now you've changed aspects of your nutrition or flexibility or your training programs.
Yeah.
And your goal is to compete in the World Championship.
Yeah, I'll give you an example from the world of ping pong, or table tennis as I like to call it. Back years ago, the ball was smaller, only by 2 millimeters, was smaller than it is now. They've tried to slow the game down to make it better for TV. And in doing so, if you imagine any ball, the bigger the ball is, the slower it spins. So you could never spin a football as fast as you could a table tennis ball. A tennis ball even, because it's bigger, it won't spin as fast. The smaller the ball, the faster it spins. So the idea is they make a table tennis ball 2 millimeters bigger, and therefore it won't spin as much. Now, how's that affect things? Well, it means players can't get as much spin on the ball, but it also means things like, if somebody, imagine in a table tennis match, somebody does a serve and somebody touches it back really short over the net with backspin on it, in order to hit and attack that, you had to first lift it using your wrist, getting under, lifting it with spin in order to get it in. Well, now the ball's not spinning as much, so you can just hit it flat. You don't need to lift it, and you could just hit it flat because of really the new technology. And again, I'd liken that to the world of marketing. There are things, years ago it was buy the biggest Yellow Pages advert you could possibly afford, and now you can use Google pay-per-click advertising where you only click when somebody makes an inquiry. So, the technology in marketing and in table tennis years ago was nowhere near what it is now. So I think that's a pretty good example of how things have changed.
Sure, and we use different tools in sport and different tools in business. You were talking about how originally you were one of the first people to use the machine that you would actually hit and practice.
Yeah. I had something called a Steiger robot. Steiger being a brand of table tennis equipment, but basically it was just like you've probably seen in cricket. There's a machine that bowls when the players go into the net, sure. And in tennis there's like that little machine that sits on the court. Well, there was one that clips onto the end of a table, and I managed to get my hand on one of those, and I used it for probably about a year to train for a match that I had when I was 18. I spent my 18th birthday in a very weird way. I was playing against the Chinese world champions. I was 18 years old. I'd only started playing when I was 14, so I'd gone from like beginner to an international standard player inside 4 years. And that was because I played every day. I never took a day off. Christmas Day, every day I played. I practiced 2, 3, 4 hours a day. I then went running, training, and being good at anything takes a phenomenal amount of effort. And and I put the hours in as I do now in my marketing and making sure that I'm at the cutting edge of everything that there is in the world of marketing. So yeah.
And then when I was watching your webinar last week, you were talking about, although the tools have changed and people are fairly reluctant to embrace some of these ideas, actually there's no substitute for hard work and graft and
absolutely.
training, and you apply that in your sporting environment and in your business environment. It's like you've actually got to get a grip, get a hold of it, and there's nothing, you can't substitute.
There's no shortcuts. There's no shortcuts. You got to get your, I always say you got to get your arse out there. You've got to, get up in the morning and come to work, or get on the table or on the tennis court or whatever it is you're doing, and you've got to put in the work. Now, obviously, you've got to do the right work. You can spend a lot of time doing a lot of the wrong thing.
So sort of target it.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've got to make sure what you're doing is the right thing. And that's where the knowledge comes in, making sure that your knowledge is at a level that is good enough to know what to practice. Even back then, I never practiced the right things. We were spending hours and hours and hours doing what wasn't necessarily the best thing. And it's such a lesson to learn, I think, to make sure that whether it's business or perhaps you're a sports person listening to this, you've got to take what you're doing and work out. I often say to people in business and in sport that the key is always the numbers. So I'll give you an example. So let's say we were talking about table tennis. So one of the numbers that I'd want to know in table tennis is what is my conversion rate of my backhand. So how many backhand winners do I hit? How many mistakes do I make on my backhand? They're two really important numbers there. Now, I know in the world of tennis, someone like Roger Federer can tell you that, his second serve travels on average at 98.3 miles an hour, and he gets, 95% of his second serves in, and so on and so forth. These top sports people know all these numbers. Now, that's in the world of tennis, which, to be honest, is a million miles away from the world of table tennis, where I'm not sure, a sport like table tennis is yet at that level where they've got all this information. But I if I was starting out now in table tennis, and even now, as a veteran, I want to know those numbers. I want to know where am I losing, where am I winning. And
the more practice you do, the more insight you show, more.
How do you know what to practice if you don't know what's working well and what's working bad? It's like, how do you know where to spend your marketing money if you don't know what's working and what's bad? I think it was Sir John Harvey Jones, when he took over at ICI, he once very famously said, "I know for a fact that 50% of our marketing isn't working. The trouble is, I don't know which 50%. And that is so true in small businesses, and so true in table tennis players.
Well, you were also talking on your webinar about, the research. If you don't know your stats or what works or your conversion rates, how can you begin to develop
how can you make any decisions?
Around that.
About what you should be practicing at table tennis or what you should be doing in your business. There's no clue. You have no clue, because you just go out there and think, right, okay, I'll hit some forehands, then hit some backhands, and then do some serving. But really, you should be working on improving what's working really well. If you know that your forehand, conversion rate, you're hitting lots of winners with your really hard forehand, and you want to work on that and get that even better. But you might also want to work on your footwork, because you're not in position always, and therefore you need to work on that, which is one of the things I'm trying to work. At 60, it's not quite as easy as it was when I was 25.
You've got a hip replacement.
Absolutely.
That's
It is.
What a success!
It is amazing, that I can't believe I can actually play table tennis with an artificial hip. I thought I'd be walking around with a walking stick, but no, I'm back playing. I'm playing really well. I'm really getting there. To be healthy enough to even consider doing that. And also to sort of push away all those barriers that people have about being 60. Actually, I'm 60 now, it's time to curl up my toes and,
So you're more informed, you're more knowledgeable.
I love stories about that. I met a lady once, it's about 5 years ago now. Her name was Martha Hooks, right? At the age of 82, she took up mountain climbing, right? This is absolutely true. 82 years old, took up mountain climbing. At the age of 96, I met her when she was 97, right? At the age of 96, she became the oldest person on the planet to climb Kilimanjaro. 96 years old.
Wow.
And people go, oh, I'm too old to do this, I'm too old to do that, you know? It's all in here, isn't it? It's a mental thing. Yeah.
And that happens in business
yeah,
too,
yeah,
isn't it?
absolutely. We can't do that. And, you know,
like...
I hear people say all the time, well, I'm on LinkedIn, but I don't really know how to use it. And as you know, I say, well, now's the time. Now's a good time when you want to start making money. You know, do you want to leave it for another year of losing money, or do you want to start winning money on LinkedIn like today? You know.
My mum always had a saying where if you'd say, oh, I can't do that, she'd always say, it's spelt Try.
Yeah.
Right.
Good saying.
Well,
Wise
is,
woman.
But you apply that in your sport, in your business. You've got to try stuff. You know? But not too many make too many useless mistakes in there.
Yeah.
You know, there's stuff out there that can help you inform.
Yeah, absolutely. We all have these things going on in our brain, don't we? These incantations. You know, we say things. Oh, I can't do this, and I don't understand technology, and digital marketing. I don't get that, and we're like conditioning because we're saying that again and again and again, and it's the same in sport. You know, I see people who are, you know, one of my teammates the other day was 10-6 up, and table tennis is now up to 11, so he's 10-6 up. And he said to me after, and he lost 12-10, and he said at 10-6, he said, I suddenly thought, oh, I'm going to lose this. He said, and it's really weird, but he just had it in his mind. I think it was actually at 10-7. He made he had a real good opportunity to win the match, made a silly error, and then suddenly thought he's going to lose. He lost the next 5 points on the trot. And that's just purely in his mind because he incanted it, albeit subconsciously. And there's not much difference between what you say to yourself on a negative side as to the positive. Mm. You know, it could be incantation or an incantation, you know, depending on how you say that. You know, an incantation.
And being that sort of mentally robust, isn't it? We talked earlier, just before we started the podcast, about the psychology of sport and the psychology of business. They're actually really, really linked, and that when you first started doing your table tennis, that the psychology didn't factor in your preparation at all.
No, it didn't. We knew nothing about psychology. We were playing ping pong. You know, we just wanted to get out there and play. But you know, one of the things you did notice over time, that there were certain players that were what I'd call really mentally strong. You know, you'd know it. You know, back in the day it was up to 21, and you'd know at 19 all there'd be a pretty good chance that, you know, player A would win over player B, because the player B was pretty much known as somebody who wasn't that confident, but player A, you know, would nail 7 out of 10 times he's going to win it, you know. And but why was that? What was the difference? And getting an understanding of that was brilliant. I once read a really good book called The Inner Game of Tennis by a guy called Timothy Galway. And the book talks about the inner game of tennis, but it's also the inner game of anything, really. It's just that he was a tennis coach, and he talks about self 1 and self 2. It's like when I was talking to myself. If I said that statement, that implies that I was and myself are two different people. So one is the conscious brain and one is the subconscious. It's like I'm just about to serve and I go, whatever you do, don't serve in the net, Steve. And the subconscious brain actually hears serve in the net, Steve. And how often do we do that? So I always remember, I'm a Sheffield Wednesday supporter for my sins. And I remember years ago watching Chris Waddle take a really important penalty in a penalty shootout. And I was watching his body language as he was coming to take the penalty. And I thought, he's going to miss this. I just know he is. And you could see it in his face. You know, he didn't want to take it. He'd missed the one for England where, you know, I think we lost to Germany. The famous one, you know, with a pizza advert and all that sort of thing. And he was up to take another one. And do you know what? He hit it over the crossbar. And, you know, and I just knew he would because you could see it in his face. And so, you know, a lot of it is about psychology and about belief. And that's the reason, again, in business, why people... They don't invest in sales and marketing because they think, oh, well, you know, it's probably not going to work and don't want to take the risk. You've got to take some risks in life, haven't you? We were talking about that earlier and, you know, living your life and, you know, sitting in that armchair thinking, I wish I had and, you know, if only I'd done this and if only I'd done that when we're, you know, sat there when we're 80 or 90 years old is never a good thing. You know, we've got to live our lives now, I think.
I remember with I've been in marketing, you know, most of my life, and PR and promotions and whatnot. That it's always in business. It's always the first thing if budget gets a bit tight to go. It's always we can get rid of people. We don't need people to do that. We can do it ourselves. And then it's like, well,
that's
why?
like saying we're not making enough money. So I know what we'll do. We'll stop doing the very thing that makes us some money anyway.
Every time.
It's crackers. It's like the opposite.
You
should be doing more, not less. Things are not, you know, you're not creating enough business. Do more of it, not less of it.
Exactly.
You know, assuming it's working at some level.
We'll do it ourselves, and then we don't have time to do it. So none of it gets done at all. And if you do, you play around the edges, and there's no meaning or any worth in your activity. Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, Judy, thank you ever so much for those questions. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. Don't want to take any more of your time.
Well, I'd like to do it again.
Yeah, let's do it again. Yeah. We maybe do a weekly or a fortnightly focus and update on how I'm doing. That'd be really cool. Yeah.
World Cup challenge.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So thank you, Judy. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you want to know more from me, please, go and find me on Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter. I'm all over that. If you want to go to my website, it's www.stevemills, that's MILLS.co, that's .co, so stevemills.co. Or go and check me out on YouTube. Again, I got something like 400 videos on YouTube, so go and have a look at those with some really good tips and ideas, ways in which you can grow your business. Or lastly, follow my podcast. Get updates direct to your mobile, and you can listen to me on an ongoing basis. How about that then? So thank you ever so much for listening, and I'll speak to you next time. Thank you.